Welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I'm your host, Nancy Walters. Get ready to create magic and miracles as you lean into your heart's desires. I believe not only does the heart want what it wants, but it knows. This show is a weekly deep dive into what it means to live from an awakened heart. I'll be sharing inspiring stories and real conversations with people just like you, who have turned the ordinary into the extraordinary. My mission is to show you how you too can be connected and heart-centered in every area of your life. Your journey to aligning with more love, more joy, and your wildest dreams come true starts now. Welcome back, everybody, to the Awaken Heart Podcast. Today we have with us Audrey Steele, who is the founder and director of Madame Steele's School of Sensual Arts. For almost a decade, she has been teaching women the art of owning their power, sex, and self-expression through sensual movement and burlesque-inspired classes and workshops. And I had the honor of being a student myself a couple months ago, which culminated in a burlesque performance. Let me tell you, Audrey is a powerful facilitator who leads with unconditional love, joy, and raw truth. She creates an environment that supports women in feeling free to open up to their sexuality and to find empowering ways to relate to it, to their bodies, and to each other. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Awaken Heart Podcast. I am here with Audrey Steele, and we just had a little quick catch up. I'm so excited to have her here today. And like I had mentioned, Audrey has the School of Sensual Arts, and I found her one day when I was, going through the internet. I had just moved to Portland, and I'm like, you know what? I need something that really connects me to my divine sensuality. I need something, and boom. What shows up is Audrey's 8-week burlesque performance series. And I'm like, okay, I got to do this. It scares the crap out of me, but I got to do this. So we have Audrey here in all her beautiful glory. And welcome, Audrey.
Hi, thank you so much.
So good to have you here. So like I said, I had found you and your amazing class. I feel that it's so important for us as women to really tap into our own divine feminine, our own sensuality, which a lot of us really disown. So somehow you found your way to doing this and offering this to women. And you do it so well. And I'd love for our guests, our listeners, to hear about, a little bit of what you're about, where you've come from, a little bit of your backstory and what led you to where you are right now.
Yeah, totally. Thanks. Gosh, it's a long backstory, so I think I'll I'll do the abbreviated version.
Okay.
What you said about it being important for women to find their sensuality and their empowered sensuality and the divine feminine, that is something that's always been kind of my orientation and has been part of my path. And when I think about my story, I can remember all the way back to when I was 7 years old. I did a striptease that I recorded and made a costume. And, so even at this very young age, sexuality and my expression of that was always something that I was very interested in. And jumping forward quite a bit, I feel like there is so much power in this thing that we do disown, not by our own fault, but because of this culture, because of, where we're coming from, where sexuality is very confusing and who we are as sexual beings can be very confusing. And we have a lot of mixed messages. So finding an empowered version of that is for me, gold. Once I found that, and I'll get to how I found it, but once I found that, it was the key to the kingdom. Suddenly there was a power and a confidence available to me that I had never known. And I've always been a confident person, but there was something about finding that confidence in my sensuality, in and of myself, that brought this whole new level of knowing and confidence. Like I said, I was always interested in this, but I think there are two things. I found One Taste, which is an organization that teaches something called orgasmic meditation. And I got really steeped into that community, and I did their coaching program. And so I learned a whole lot from them. But coincidentally, and at the same time, I fell into burlesque dancing, which was kind of a random. I was always a dancer and I performed my whole life, and I had been kind of not doing that for a long time. And I met a girl and she was having an audition and I was just itching to perform. And I landed in this little burlesque troupe in San Francisco. And that's really, so the combination of those two things is really where I kind of like started feeling like something more, like there's something really big and important here. And for me, my experience burlesque dancing, that's where it was. It was like all the insecurities I had as a woman, all the things I didn't feel, all the ways I didn't feel good enough. Through my experience being a burlesque performer, all those things just like, it was just leveled. Like, holy shit, I figured out the secret, right? Like, we're all okay. We're all good enough. And I don't need to like, get liposuction or a boob job, or like, it's just like, I'm okay. I can do this.
Yes, you learn to completely, between those two, burlesque and the one taste, right? You learn to own yourself. Now, when you were doing the striptease and 7 years old and all that for yourself, were you in an environment that really supported that, or was something that was really radically different and something you had to keep hidden?
That's a good question. It was something I was mortified that I did afterwards. So, if that says anything about where I was, sex wasn't, and sexuality wasn't something that my family really talked about. Like, it was definitely like, but my parents weren't prudish. It was just kind of like, like, go figure that out on your own. Or like, you'd be watching a movie with them and a sex scene would come up and they'd be like, close your eyes. And you're like, okay. And then there's all these weird feelings. You're like, something's happening.
Sensation.
Yeah. So, but I do remember after doing that, me and my sisters would make these little videos. We recorded it and we share it with the family, and everyone was just like, like, what has she done? And I felt shame instantly, like, oh, that was bad. Like, I shouldn't have done that. That was too much, but in the moment, it was just like creative expression. I was just really feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I think every little kid has explored that at some point, and the big balance and the big difference is whether you're ashamed for it or not. And a lot of times you're shamed for it, and that carries on throughout your whole lifetime until you're finally like, look at that and realize it was the other person. It wasn't, you you were just expressing yourself, and that's how you expressed yourself.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there was definitely like, and I think still like there's this edginess and rawness, like sexuality in our in this culture is just so, it's still so taboo, right? Even though we have so much going on. I mean, it's in less and less, we're getting more and more normalized in just what it means to be a sexual being, right? Like, and I think that's happening a lot. And I see that in different teachers and groups and performance groups that I've had the pleasure of seeing and witnessing and experiencing over the last many years. But yeah, it's just like normalizing it in conversation. Like, even with our girlfriends, I can think back to times and certain groups of women that I was friends with where like it wasn't okay to talk about, I don't know, like the deepest details of your sex life. Or I always felt like that woman who is like too much, sharing too much. And so I like to work with those women. Yeah.
Yeah. So you were just more open to your own sexuality, and that's what you're helping all these other women with these classes. So I want to go back to your first burlesque performance. So how is that? I know you found burlesque, and is that what kind of awakened you to where you are now? And, you have your school of burlesque dance. So how was it your first performance when you were out there on the stage? You're like, this is me. This is.
Oh, so good. It was so good. Leading up to it was terrifying. Like I said, I've been a dancer. I'd performed my whole life in college and all that. So that part wasn't scary, but there was definitely this element of, and I think the real fear was, am I hot enough to do this? Like, am I good enough? Is my body beautiful enough? Like, you don't know until you do it. The fear of like being humiliated, like, it doesn't really happen. You get on stage and you share and people are just like, thank you. That was awesome. But yeah, leading up to it, it was like, I was so nervous. I rehearsed so hard. Like, I ran that into the ground. And I even had one of my friends learn it and do it for me so I could watch her do it. So I could be like, okay, it looks good. But the night of the performance, and, I'll say there weren't many people there, but it was definitely like nerve-wracking at first. And then I remember it's like the moment where the big reveal, it's like where you take your top off. That's usually like the final reveal in a burlesque act. Yeah, Nancy, I got to tell you, it was like stepping through the threshold of like shame, like I don't have to be shameful about my body anymore. Like it's good enough. And I don't know, there's something really powerful about being witnessed in public in that way. And I know you probably experienced that, and many of all my students report that experience of there's something about just saying fuck it and throwing your top on the ground, and then suddenly you're liberated, right?
Yes, and you encouraged us at the beginning of the class, at the very beginning, like to take the top off. At first I'm like, oh God, there's no way I'm taking my top off. I'm just gonna keep my bra on. There's no way. You're like, you know what? It's just so liberating. It's so freeing to do it. And then finally at the end, everybody was going to do it. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna freaking do it. Fuck it. Who cares? And I did, and it was liberating. So yeah, I want to touch upon that because, from your first performance and now you're running the School of Burlesque Dance. How long have you been running the school here in Portland?
Well, the school was incorporated just this past September, but I've been doing these classes for the last 7 years on and off, or going on 8 now. So
okay, and you've also done something, I've gone to your Move the Earth, where women can dance around and express themselves.
Yeah, there's many, so it's like the School of Sensuality. So my vision is that I'm going to collect and create many ways for people to explore their sensuality. And my primary mode is through movement, because for me movement is inherently sensual, and there doesn't have to be anything added. So you just moving your body is a sensual experience, and that for me is the baseline. It's like learning how to move in a way that feels good rather than look good, because then we're directly related to pleasure in our bodies, which we are so estranged from, right? Like a lot of us, and probably not a lot of your audience, because your audiences are people who are seekers. So, but there's so many people out there who don't even know how to feel their breath in their body, So this is next level. So this is like the advanced, like feeling like, oh, what feels good, and being able to follow that and let your body express it, I think is so healing. And something, I've been told by my students is like, they didn't realize they were missing that. Like, oh, I didn't even know that this part of being in my body was missing for me.
Yeah. And that's so important. And what I absolutely love about you, and you as a facilitator, you as a person, and your classes is when you walk in there, it's not about learning dance steps. You're having women go in there, expose all their vulnerabilities, come to the table. Like, we are in there supporting each other. We're all got our same insecurities. We're all going through the same thing. We created this bond with each other where we trusted each other. We supported each other. You teach us, like, I can't teach you where that spot is and how to dive into your own sensuality. It is your own. And you showed us that, and you gave us such freedom to express ourselves. And what was so beautiful from the very beginning, we come in there and we're all like, kind of like, oh my gosh, we're in this first class. We don't know these ladies. We're all very quiet, but you get us up, you get us walking around, you put us right in front of each other. You have all these activities that really, by the end of the first class, we felt very comfortable, and I felt very connected with all the other ladies, more connected to self. How did you come to develop that kind of teaching? Because I find it's very unique. And it was one of the best classes I've ever taken in my life, really. And it just really woke me up more as a woman. I've always been a sexual person, but it was missing in me for a while. And some women have never felt that before, and they're leaving with such a wonderful sense of empowerment that they want to keep doing it over and over again. So you really are helping women tap into their own femininity and their own sensuality. So how did you develop that style? I mean, it's who you are. You teach so beautifully, and you are such a beautiful facilitator and person.
Thank you. Gosh, thank you so much. Thank you. It's really nice to hear your experience from the other side. I don't get to hear it a lot. So But I want to say the word initiation because that's something, as you know, we're in this coronavirus world. So everything's in limbo. We were supposed to be in a course right now. And it's been, what was that class was right at the end of December. So it's been, a little bit now. So, but what I've been thinking a lot about everything, and this is ever evolving. So I'll say that, like, it's been ever evolving, but this concept of initiation. And as I was hearing you talk about your experience, it's like, that's really what's happening. It's like, and you said, you don't really teach dance steps. And I'm realizing like, wow, I kind of got to get that more clear from my, my marketing perspective, because really what this is an initiation and an invitation to be leaders in this movement of empowered sensuality and just being empowered women, and the way that we relate to each other, the way that we relate to our bodies, and the way that we interact and experience the world around us. So how it developed, like I said, I've been a dancer my whole life, got really into yoga. I'm a certified yoga instructor. I got really into health and wellness, and really like became sort of a workshop junkie. So I started doing a lot of very cutting edge and fringe and really intensive workshops, including like the Landmark Forum. And like I said, I worked extensively with One Taste, which was a very radical experience. And so just being put into situations where you're really stretched beyond the status quo, like just really seeking to know truth and seeking to find more and more about like being human and what that means, and how to live optimally, right? So just a combination of all that. And I think, really my teaching style comes from what's inspired me from teachers. And what's inspired me from teachers I've had are people who can like cut through the bullshit. So we talk about container a lot. And I think creating this solid container is so important. And for me, I know I've had the most opening when I've had a facilitator who can hold the space strong enough that I can actually begin to open up. And I'll tell you the truth, like I'm not someone who like I walk in and I'm judging people and I'm like, I'm not doing this, and I know that that's how people feel. So I like to just cut right to the chase. We all don't feel comfortable. Let's just like get that out on the table, and then let's create an environment where we can do what we came here to do, and I know it's a deeper thing than people think they came for. So I'm just working with how to invite that out and how to create enough comfort for that. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Answer my question. And just going back to how you say it's not just going out and learning a routine and going out to dance act. And you were saying that maybe I should clarify that more in my marketing. I don't think you should.
Oh.
Because, you already explained we're diving into our sensuality, because if people are in there like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to learn dance steps, like women that are going to be eliminated because like, oh, I can't do that. I'm not going to learn. I can't dive into myself. But if you're going in there, the way that you facilitate and you teach, it's like going into the unknown. You have to go into the unknown in order to strip away and reveal that sensuality inside yourself. So if someone is going in there knowing, oh my God, I'm not going to learn dance steps, I can't do this. They're going to hate themselves before they even get in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool feedback, because I definitely agree. Like that's the reason I've kind of made things, I wouldn't say elusive, but just kind of like, I don't give it all away, because, and now we are giving it all away, but cat's out of the bag. But I do think I've had the same experience where I've done some of the most powerful exercises I've done. It's like, you just get this piecemeal, like first just get into the room, right? And you're like, okay, like in the room, what's next? I think there's something about working with all that anxiety and all the stuff that comes up and the resistance, because that's life, people. Like, hello, that's like what we're experiencing on micro and macro levels all through our life. So when we create a container to work in that stuff through, it's like we get to really directly rub up against it and see like, how do I be when I'm like terrified, yet there's something that I want. And so how do I get from just getting in the room to the thing that I want, the thing that's like seemingly way, way over there. And I do think, sometimes we have to be willing, to be in the unknown. So I totally agree.
And it was so beautiful how each class, each thing you taught led into the next level of growth. And it was terrifying. It was terrifying, but it was such expansive growth. I think every woman really needs to do a class like yours or join your class. And it's the voices in our head. It's the voices in my own head. And you're playing the music and I'm moving around, there's so much judgment that I have. There's so many other judgments, have old voices, old levels of shame. But then when I finally let go of that and is able to drop into my body, and when I've seen the other women do it, the room was electric. It was such a liberating, freeing feeling. And to see each and every woman, regardless of age, race, religion, size, it didn't matter. They radiated such beautiful, divine, feminine power, energy. The room, like literally, it was on fire.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's what I love about this so much. It's like, and you've watched me like in class when I watch someone get it. So, there's a threshold. It's like everyone comes in, everyone's a little awkward and everyone's holding back, right? That's just the nature of how the journey goes. And then there's a moment and I watch each woman in the class, I watch her drop into her body. And then suddenly she is who she is. And there's no pretense and there's no trying. It's just like she's moving from pleasure and she's enjoying herself and she's feeling beauty. And you can see that. And I'm like giddy. I'm on the sidelines jumping up and down like, yeah. It's like, because it's so, you can see it and you can feel it, like you said. Yeah, there's definitely, it's the dropping into the body. Mm-hmm. And all those voices. It's like, I think the thing that you hit on is we're really all feeling the same way. And it doesn't matter what you look like or where you come from. It's like, unfortunately, and I just feel like a broken record, but we live in this culture where we just, no matter what, aren't good enough. And I don't care who you are and how much work you've done. And you might not like me saying this out there, but you still feel insecure sometimes. Like it just never goes away. It's a practice and it's an art form. So when we get in that room and we each one by one start to realize the facade that is, the lie that is, it's like this sacred moment where we're really seeing each other and we're really allowing our beauty to come through, and then we walk out the door and it's back to like, oh, my thighs are fat and like, the wrinkle, I can't stand it, like that comes back. But the taste of having that moment of like, I saw a woman own her whole self and her whole power and all of her beauty. And knowing that that's possible, like it's just, we need more of that. Mm-hmm. Because we are so inundated with that. And, maybe the voice is quieter for some, but I just don't buy anybody who says like, they like just feel so great about themselves all the time. It's just, it's not real. It's arrogant. And I heard you say that word recently on your share. And I think that keeps us separated, right? It's like, hey, let's just drop that bullshit. You don't have to pretend anymore. Mm-hmm. I know that you feel scared because I feel scared too, And so when we can just drop that, it takes away the competition. And then suddenly we're really relating to each other. Obviously, this stuff amps me up.
It's that dropping the fear, and you're going to have the fear. You have to make friends with it. You're going to have insecurity. You have to make friends with it. We all have it. And when we are so like, oh, I'm just so great and everything, but there's an insecure little scared child inside who's covering up that child. We have to embrace all aspects of ourselves, and we're not better than somebody else. We're the same as them. We've all got the same issues. And that's one of the things that when we went around the room, even after week 7, we went around the room, how are we feeling right now? Mm-hmm. And it's amazing because we see even you mentioned how you're feeling, and we're like, you're like on this pedestal and you've got the same insecurities that we have. And it's just astounding. It's like, what? No, you don't look like that. So it connects us all. Vulnerability connects.
Yeah, totally. And, there was a dear friend of mine who you know, and I've heard this before, but for me, it was talking to this friend of mine and talking to her about this imposter syndrome, right?
Mhm.
So this is something that comes up. She's a scientist. She's got like all these degrees, and she's like working like at the upper echelons of like the science community. And she's like, "Let me tell you a secret. I'm making this shit up." As I go along, right? Like there's some, but I just think there's this way that we feel like we have to hold up. And you said you're on a pedestal, and it's like, no, but there's this idea that, you know, there are people who are better than, but it's like, the only difference is that I'm just willing to push through. I'm
Mhm.
just willing to actually like stand up in front of people and say like, but that doesn't mean, you know, that I'm not feeling the insecurity. But here's what I really want to say about that is I think it is a massive detriment for anybody who is in a position of power or leadership to not be admitting
Mhm.
their insecurities and their vulnerabilities. Like that's what we need. We need leaders who are leading vulnerably, because then it's creating the separation of like, well, I'll never be her because she's
Right.
got it all together and she's happy and her sex life's great and she's fulfilled and she's beautiful. And it's like, no, she's going home and shutting the door and then facing all the things we face as humans. It just doesn't go away.
Mhm.
That's kind of where I lead from. I can't, you know, and it freaks me out when people are like, oh, you're so, and I'm like, yeah, but you figure it out, right? By the end of the course, you're like, oh,
Yeah, she's
and
just
that,
like us. She's just like us. And you
yeah,
push past it despite the fear. That's the big thing is you're pushing past that fear despite of it, like despite of being uncomfortable, despite of being insecure, despite of it all, you're ready for something different. You're ready for something new. You're ready to like, grow and flower
yeah.
despite of it.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of the invitation in the class, right? It's like, I know you're going to want to not do this, but if you commit to doing it, like if you give yourself the gift of getting through all the resistance, then on the other side, you're going to find out something invaluable, right? Like on the other side, you're going to figure out like the secret, which it's all different for all of us, right? Like we all kind of have this different story of like why I can't or why I'm not good enough. And then on the other side of it, you're like, oh, that was, I just did it. Like that was just,
Yeah.
that was this illusion, you know, this thing I built up. Yeah.
And then you do it. And so I did it. There's so many times, even just before, I'm like, I can't do this. Maybe I'll just do it the next time. I just can't learn this act. I don't know how this talk's going to come off with this beat. I don't have it together. No. And then I got it together and I did it. It was so liberating. It was so amazing. And I had, two friends there, which I was so grateful to have there. And then once the video was ready, I put it up in my women's group on my Facebook page. And, it's a private group. I just wanted to show women what they could do on the other side. It's just not something every woman does. And the harder they're going to judge me or anyone else for is the harder they're judging themselves.
Right.
So I was just showing what could be done. I mean, I had come off the holidays after I was eating and drinking everything. And, I had a couple extra pounds on, but I freaking did it. And so that's why I shared it. And it was just like, I'm not afraid to be vulnerable. I'm not afraid to, I want women to learn from my own mistakes. I want women to learn from my courage, what is possible.
Right. Yeah. The more scary things that we do, right? The more things we do that are outside of our comfort zone that are manageable for us, the more we get to face that thing that, yeah, we're like collecting these experiences. And in the end, so I'm not being very articulate here, but I'm thinking about like all the times I failed on stage, right? Like all the times I failed on stage. Now I'm like, I don't care. It doesn't matter. Like, I really don't care. I don't care if I look like a fool, because what I've learned is that it does not matter. It does not matter what anybody else thinks. And I know that's so cliche and it's so much easier said than experienced. But the point is allowing ourselves to have these edgy experiences where we're like, like putting yourself on the line, you're putting your ego on the line. That gives us this opportunity to learn and to get to this place where it's like, I don't care. And all that's left is my desire. What do I want to do? I want to lead people. Great. I'm going to do it. And the key is that every failure is an opportunity to learn something. And so I just love that. I love how it gets us, this experience kind of gets us privy to that place.
And nobody's judging you harder than you judge yourself.
Yeah.
in all aspects of life,
Yeah.
anything that you're trying to do. You were going to be leading a class right now, but this whole, we're still in the middle of COVID-19. And I know we've all had to reinvent ourselves how we're going to, do the same things or run our business or help inspire and serve people through social distancing and online communities. So what is next for you? What is lighting you up right now?
Yeah. What's lighting me up right now is doing what I need to do for myself every day. And as irritating as that is to the entrepreneur in me and the part of me that wants this community to just keep growing, that's the message I have. Through this whole experience, I'm following what feels good, which is what I teach. So I'm trying to practice what I preach. And what I keep coming to is nurture the self, nurture the self, nurture the self. Trust that when motivation and progress and offerings want to come, they'll come. But that's that's where I've been lately. And this is great because I've been having a reflection on what I'm doing and what I'm teaching and
turning within
and realizing this can only grow and be available to people if I'm doing my work.
So,
and I think we get caught up as women trying to run our own businesses and trying to make impact in the world and wanting to serve. I've been doing a yoga practice pretty regularly, and the other day I was like, I should be teaching yoga again because I teach yoga, but I was like, I'll do 3 classes a week, and then I quickly was like, no, Audrey, yoga's for you right now. You don't have to teach everything. You don't have to keep pushing. So I feel like right now is a really good opportunity to cultivate and to nourish and to kind of, to go with the flow. But that said, I am excited about kind of really beefing up and getting a little more. And I know we talked about kind of keeping the allure and the mystery around the classes, but I also there's part of me that just wants to, drop the I teach dance classes thing and really just be I teach personal growth, there's something brewing around that and kind of getting more real with the power of what I'm doing. So I'm letting that bubble and brew, and I'm excited to see how it's all gonna expand and come forth. But obviously the online world is the place to be right now. So I am teaching a embodied connection class, which is basically a little dance party and an opportunity to drop in with other women and connect. And that's happening Monday nights, 5:30 to 6:30, just an hour. And it's been really sweet and really nice to drop in and just connect with the other women.
Definitely have to put that in the show notes. But I really absolutely love what you said as far as what's lighting you up. It's yourself. You're lighting yourself up. I feel that, the world, we all came into 2020, woo, it's going to be the best year ever.
I know. That's true.
Boom. It is I had mentioned yesterday on a live that I did, Barbara DeAngelis on Kuplaks and Soul Talk, how she was talking about how we all got a cosmic smackdown. We've all been sent back. The whole world has been sent to their bedrooms. We've been forced to slow down.
Yep.
We've been forced to turn within. And those like yourself that are taking the time to self-nurture, self-care, take care of yourself, cultivate an authentic place for yourself, because only through ourselves can we really fully be able to serve and help other people. So I really honor you and admire you and acknowledge you for doing that for yourself. Because by doing that, all the better, you're just setting yourself up on a trajectory for your own self and for all these other beautiful women, all these other people in the world that you're going to help and serve.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. It feels like to be sustainable, the only way we can be sustainable in any of our offerings is if we are coming back to ourselves.
So for our listeners right now, what would you tell the women, something they can implement today to help them to really cultivate a space for themselves, cultivate authentic expression, whether through dance or whether through owning their essence? What's a key takeaway we would give them?
Like something they can practice at home?
Yes.
Something they can do? It's so simple. breathe more.
Right.
Everything starts with the breath, everything starts with the breath. That's what we start every class with. And that gets you right into the body. And so notice your breath more. And then what I like to do is the breath is really pleasurable. So if you're noticing the breath and you're feeling like what's happening, and you can just do this anytime. Like, this is the great thing about it. I'm definitely like not one of the most disciplined people in the world, but I love that I can just breathe wherever I am, and I can feel the effervescence and the opening that happens, and that gets me in direct relationship with the pleasure of being in my body. And it's really that simple. And then yes, like, in my experience, my body wants to move once I start breathing deliberately, right? So it's like, follow your breath, listen, and then just what we're saying, follow your desire. So like, follow what feels good right now. If I had to lay down and watch like a bunch of episodes of really trashy TV yesterday because I had to lay down and I couldn't stop myself unless I did that. So really listening and really allowing yourself whatever it is you need without judging or, working not to judge, but just focusing, staying on that thread of pleasure. Like what's going to, and nourishment, what's going to bring you the most. I'm loving the word nutrients right now. Like, is this nutrients for me? To just question that and to follow that.
Something that they can use right now in the car. They can do it anywhere. I do practice breath in the car because I notice I do shallow breathing sometimes. And when you breathe, it brings you to the present moment. In the present moment, there's the pleasure. You can just like breathe, drop into that and add some movement to it. And what feels good to them. Yeah.
It feels good. And also to realize like, we feel anxious right now. We feel sad right now. We have like a lot of intense feelings with what's going on in the world, right? Fear and that, like you said, coming to the present moment right now, I'm okay. And so we can feel pleasure even when we feel sad, or we can just allow those feelings. So I just want to also like put that out there into the world. It's okay to feel unmotivated. It's okay to take a break. It's okay to just feel sad for a day. I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves as modern women and entrepreneurs and givers and all this. It's like we have to give ourselves permission. So just breathe. Just breathe and feel and feel.
Be compassionate. Be compassionate with yourself. What is an awakened heart to you? What does it mean to you?
Oh, that's a great question. An awakened heart to me, I would say it's a curious heart. So one that is saying yes to the world and the experience of being human, and therefore wanting to know, wanting to search, wanting to see people, wanting to have more experience. Curiosity, I would say, is an awakened heart. And then from that curiosity, like compassion and love and these life-giving experiences, these like kind of fundamental ways of being human and living from our heart and leading from our heart.
Beautiful. I love that. So, Audrey, where is the best places to find you and what are you offering right now? I know you mentioned
Yeah, well, I've got my website is www.audreysteele.com, and there lists all our classes coming up. I do private sessions and embodiment coaching with people. I've got a blog up there. My Instagram is connected on the website. So if you go there, you can find my Instagram, and the Instagram is at Madam Steele Burlesque. And then we're on Facebook too. So, and I think I'm just Madam Steele on Burlesque, and it's Madam with no E. So it's MADAM. And so, yeah, we're doing this Monday night, 1 hour embodied connection class where we're dancing and we're dropping in and acknowledging each other and just sharing where we're at. So it's just an opportunity to be connected with other women and to wiggle around a little bit. And yeah. And then there'll be more. I'm working on an online offering. So if you sign up for the mailing list, I send everything right away. So, and I imagine as this continues on, we'll be getting some more movement classes up online. But that's it right now. We're about to launch a sensual movement challenge on Instagram. It's starting well, now it will have started. We're about to do that. So we're always doing different things on Instagram to like get people involved. And as soon as we can meet in person, we'll be doing a burlesque series live. So that will hopefully be towards the end of the summer.
Oh, that'd be great. And anybody who is listening in the Portland area, I definitely recommend when that is launched to seek out Audrey Steele and join that class, because your growth in how you will feel as a woman will just be something that you've like beyond what you ever thought was possible. And I will definitely put all your information down in the show notes, so it'll be really easy for people to find you. And Audrey, thank you so much for joining. It was so fun with you. I'd love to have you on again sometime. At some point, we'll delve deeper into
the nitty gritty. We'll
get into the nitty gritty.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Audrey.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Awaken Heart podcast. If you've enjoyed what you've heard today, share it with a friend. And if you haven't already, head on over to your favorite podcast app to subscribe, rate, and review. If you have any comments, questions, or feedback, you can reach me at theawakenheartpodcast.com.